Whenever I'm asked to do anything for the AP test, I always make sure that I'm doing what I'm told. And so the first thing I look for, I'm taking a derivative because of that prime. And then I need to figure out, well, what rule am I going to use to take this derivative? And here we have the quotient, one thing in the numerator and one thing in the denominator. And so we remember that our quotient rule, try to write it down here for a minute. Do you remember the quotient rule? You can write it down based on the numerator being f of x and the denominator being g of x. Hopefully this is what you wrote down. And so that means we're going to need to know f prime and g prime of x. And we're going to make one change here. This will show up in the problem. But this should be a 4, and this should be a cube. So that means our g of x is x to the 3/2 power, and so its derivative, g prime of x, will be 3 over 2 times x to the, when we subtract 1 from this, we're going to be looking at 1 over 2. And that's the same as the square root, so I'm going to write that in. So those are our f and g and f prime and g of x. Now we were given a value of 4, so I'm going to plug that in for all of these pieces. F of 4 is then 12. G of 4 will be the square root of 4 cubed. Well, that's going to be 2 cubed is 8. F prime of 4 is going to be 3. And g prime of x will be 3 over 2 times the square root of that 4. Well, that's going to be 3 over 2 times 2, or just 3. Now we can go back to our original equation here and just plug everything in. F prime was 3. When I have a 4 here, everything gets that 4. So I have 3 times g of 4. G of 4 we found was 8, minus g prime of 4. G prime of 4 was equal to 3, and f of 4 was equal to 12. And this is all over g of 4, which is 8, squared. Well, this is going to be 24 minus 36 all over 64, or, which simplifies to the blue and then the black. So we're looking at negative 3 over 16.